Hello and welcome back to the channel. When I first started getting into exotic gardening, the one thing that really surprised me was growing a banana plant from basically from seed or from a pup, which is basically a small plant. Growing one of those in the UK, I thought, nah, that's absolutely impossible. It's way too cold to grow something that exotic. And then as I learned more information about how these plants grow and the winter protection, it was really interesting because there's a couple of varieties of banana in particular which are pretty hardy actually in the UK. And even on the ultimate hard frost, it will kill the actual main plant. This is what you call a pseudostem. And the frost will damage this if it's left unprotected under about -3 Celsius. It will die completely back to the floor, and then you think, oh yeah, it's totally dead. But the Musa basjoo and the Musa sycamensis, which are the two main varieties that I grow here in Hampshire, these particular plants could die completely back to the ground, but they will come back from the roots, particularly if you mulch over the roots on there to protect them during a really, really hard frost. Now, these particular plants have had some loose wrapping over them, so some fleece and some kind of weed membrane, maybe a little bit of that kind of loft insulation material. And that has meant that the whole size of the plant has been retained over winter. So this pseudostem has not died right back to the ground. It's now throwing out new leaves in April, would you believe? It's throwing out these nice new leaves, and we've retained the height. And that's been even with the garden going down to about -5, -6 Celsius. So providing you've got a fairly sunny spot for them, because they need lots of sun really to produce big plants, providing you can give them that kind of position in the garden, and they also require a decent amount of water. So if you've got some drip irrigation, or if you're just willing to, every so often put watering cans of water on it or the hose pipe on them, they will reward you with massive growth and they will look super tropical in the garden. And I would say bananas and palms are the two I particularly like in this garden because it really gives that exotic look. And as you guys may know, I grow quite a few palms, and even down to the lower temperatures and stuff. If you choose the right plant and you put it in the right place, then you can get really good growth out of these plants in the UK. And it's the same with the bananas really. There's obviously most of the more tropical bananas, they won't take a frost at all, as in it will completely kill the plant. But if you stick to particularly these two varieties, so you've got Musa basjoo, which has got the plain green leaf like this one, or you've got Musa sycamensis, which has got a kind of red fleck to the leaf and like red patches on them, and sort of some of them have got kind of like almost like stripes on them. And though both of those I grow here and I treat them in exactly the same way, and they've rewarded me with excellent growth. And it's been a really good sort of experiment on that. Now, these particular plants here, even though they look massive, they were planted in early 2023. So I grew them in a greenhouse at work, and I planted them out probably about 2 to 3 feet tall. So about 60 to 90 centimeters in height. So they're a reasonable sized plant before I put them in the ground. And I put them in the ground in the spring when the ground was warming up, so they got going straight away. And there was 3 or 4 that I planted as individual stems, and they naturally multi-stem over time, which we call pups, which is the side shoots off of them. And you don't have to do anything to get them to do this. You just literally plant them and they will naturally send up small plants to the side of it. They are quite difficult to kind of chop off and repot. It can be done, but you do have to be a bit careful on making sure you get enough root on them, and probably doing it when they're not too big. But yeah, essentially they are the two types of bananas that I have planted in the ground. I guess you could grow them in a large pot, but you need to make sure you keep them watered and keep putting fertilizer on them, giving them lots of nitrogen because they need that for the big leaves on there. So I will now just show you some of the smaller Musa sycamensis, which I've got in pots, which will be going out into the ground probably in about a month's time. So I will grow these on in the pots. They can be grown outside as long as there's not a frost. When they're very young, they're a little bit more tender. So it's good to kind of grow them on a little bit in a greenhouse or a conservatory or something, and then plant them out when they're a bit bigger. So let's have a look at the smaller sizes, and I will compare those to the bigger groups of bananas which I have here. So here are two Musa sycamensis. Just they're a little bit smaller than the ones that I planted out a few years ago, but those ones were bought, I think, originally from the big plant nursery. And this variety I got from, I think it was from Jungle Seeds on there. So I grew these from seed last year and at the beginning of the year. So they are literally 1 year old on there. So grown from seed in a fairly warm greenhouse and then potted on. And I've kept these in an unheated greenhouse, which has gone to about +1 degree. And these have grown a little bit over the winter, but not too much. But I guess they've sort of toughened up a little bit. So particularly the one on the left is a little bit more of a decent size, and you can see it's retained all its leaves. So this one, you can't really see the red fleck on it, but you can see some darker lines on the leaf there, some sort of stripes, which I think will darken up later on. So that's the size of the pseudo stem there. They call it pseudo stem because it's basically, although it retains the rigidity of kind of like a woody stem, it's basically not. It's like a very sort of the material is very soft. It's full of water, and obviously when that with the frost expands, it freezes and expands, it can kind of destroy the stem on there. But it's a very soft stem, and you can, when they get frosted off, which I'll just show you, this is a Musa basjoo group just behind it, and you can see where all the old leaves were cut off at the end of autumn, and now you've got all these lovely new leaves coming up through the centre on there. So that hasn't done it with these particular bananas, but if, for instance, I don't know, this top bit here, zoom out a little bit, this top here, say, completely was frozen because it was exposed and wasn't wrapped. Now this will probably go really soft and it would just flop over, but there'd be a point in the stem, probably where you've wrapped to, where it will still be really, really firm. And what you can do is you can literally at any point on this stem, you can just chop it right across with a saw, or yeah, generally with a you could just use like a handsaw or something, or a knife. You chop it like that, and inside you will see, it looks like almost like rings of a tree, and the center is obviously the centerpiece here will literally just grow out the top of where you've chopped to. So if I just show you to the right here, so this is the wrapping material that I would use to wrap the bananas to really guarantee the height on them. And I got this from B&Q, and it is just literally loft insulation. So you can wrap the stem with that, and then I put over like a weave membrane over the top of it. just to make it look a little bit more attractive on there. There is obviously other methods. You can wrap them with fleece. You can kind of create like a structure and put loads of hay and straw and stuff in there. Actually, straw rather than hay. And what you want to make sure really is that they don't rot off as well. So if you make it sweat too much and it's too wet in whatever you've wrapped it with, it can rot the stem off. So that's why I kind of just lightly wrap them. So this here is a Musa sycamensis, and this is one that is quite tall now. I mean, the pseudo stem's at least 7 foot tall, to the point where its leaf comes out, and then you've got another couple of feet of leaf on the top there. And this is just coiling out its first leaf of the season, really. And just down here, you can see what I mean about the pups. So down here, we've got, well, actually to the side of it, this was obviously the first pup that came up from the main stem. So that is a decent kind of size there. And then you can see these are the smaller ones. Even these tiny ones here have survived the winter. You've got another pup there, and you can just about see another one coming up to the side here. And they naturally just form off of the main stem there. So in a nutshell, I would say bananas actually are a lot easier to grow than a lot of people think. I think they think they're very tropical and complicated to grow. But if you stick to these two varieties, then you'll be rewarded with great kind of groups of bananas. And ultimately, as I was saying, these groups here were put in the spring of 2023. So we're looking at it being, this is their second year, and they're absolutely huge. I mean, I've probably shown you in previous videos, but look at the size of that stem on there. It is crazy how big they get. And this one's probably about at least 11 foot tall. And you've got the new leaves coming out there. So it's done really well. Space requirements is probably the last thing I'll talk about here. You probably need, for a group like this, you need probably a good metre squared for the actual stems. And then obviously when they put out their leaves at the top there, they will form a massive canopy of leaves. They can get wind damaged, which they naturally split on their leaves. So you can see where they kind of like have got lines on them. They naturally split there to allow the leaf to act less like a sail in the wind. And that means that it will, the leaf will survive. It will look tatty, but it will survive on there. So in a nutshell, good planting position with lots of sun, plenty of water, plenty of nitrogen fertilizer on them, and you will be rewarded with brilliant growth. Some of these leaves can get meters long, a couple of meters long probably on there. So absolutely massive, and a great plant to really impress your friends and family when they pop over. They won't believe that you can grow something this amazing in the UK. So I hope you found that an informative video, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.